Welcome to the Smoking Word. Welcome to the Smoking Word.
Yo, what's up, everybody? We are back. The Smoking Word podcast is brought to you by CasaDeRock.com. That's my merch spot. Everything is done in-house by your boy. So if you want to support the show, go do that holiday shopping right now. We got beanies, we got some shorts, hoodies, we got all that good shit ready to rock right now. And we have a pre-order for the skateboard decks. They're taking a little longer, but we got you. So definitely CasaDeRock.com. Go get that merch. Support the movement. You can also catch me at Hoya Rock 357 on Instagram. And catch us. Make sure you subscribe to the Smoking Word podcast on Spotify, Apple Music, and on YouTube. It doesn't count if you don't subscribe. So we got to let everybody know we're making noise out here. So make sure you do that right now. Look out for that new Madball shit. Thanks to everybody who's been copping merch. Everybody who's been copping, who copped the Madball special barrel selected at Jack Daniels. Everybody who look out for the Pitchfork collab, Casa de Rock Pitchfork collab, the Omerta collab. We have a lot of stuff going on, so go support the movement. And today, my guest, my boy, the axe behind Newfound Glory and a couple other bands, Chad Gilbert, my bro. What up, Chad? Let's set this off.
To the Smoking Word.
Hey. There he goes. Yeah. Hold on. You get an extended hand clap. I don't give anybody hand claps.
Thank you. What's up?
Yeah, Chad, I'm glad. What's up, bro? How you been?
How you doing, man?
Good shit. Chilling, just doing this lockdown shit. How you been?
I'm good. I decided today's the day I'm gonna smoke weed just for this podcast right now.
Yeah, too late. If you haven't smoked yet, I don't think you ever smoked. No, but it's funny. It's crazy. I'm really glad I got you though, because for a while ago, I think that we talked about it a while ago. I was like, yo, trying to get you on, and then you know how everything happens. But
yeah,
it was funny how I got Toby and Dave. And I had Freddie when I did another one, and I'm like, yo, Chad, I gotta get Chad. You know, Chad gotta complete the trifecta.
Look, Freddie and Toby, I understand, but I can't believe you did Dave before me, dude. What the hell?
No, you know, you're a busy man. You're a busy man. That's the difference. And I had to say the cherry on top, the face. But what's up with you? What you been up to? Like, I mean, we're gonna get into more what you've been up to, but what you like up to lately on your everyday right now?
Just I got married, October 3rd. So just kind of been nesting, getting the wife settled in the house and just kind of,
And where you at now? Where you living at now?
Still in Tennessee.
Yeah, good shit.
Still in Tennessee. So just kind of been doing that, getting settled and kind of like, like everybody, just figuring out every day, just
so crazy this shit, right?
It is, I think just like you with this podcast and your merch and everything you have going, I think that for people that have been in, music for a really long time, it's sort of a new challenge that's like a cool challenge. It sucks that people are like, we want to be on tour and make money and support our families in that way. We want to see our fans. We want to play shows. But also it's like, sort of open the doors for some new things.
Yeah. For sure.
Like who knows, like you with this podcast or some of the things you're working on. So you
Definitely.
just hope, you hope your friends and family stay healthy. And then so you take everything you've learned now and you can apply it when things go back. You know what I mean?
Yeah, not for sure. That's what I use this shit as. I had the first early, you get that panic stage, then you kind of ease up and then kind of like fall in the cracks and try to figure shit out. Either you fold under pressure, or you make a fucking diamond with pressure. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
And
Exactly.
fucking but let me ask you, if I remember, your family's originally from Tennessee, right?
Kentucky.
Kentucky,
Yeah.
Kentucky. That I know it was somewhere hee haw.
Yeah. One hee haw north.
I want all right, yeah. Because I know Tennessee in general now is hot. Like a
Yeah.
lot of people are making their way out there, which is dope because
Yeah.
it's like a cool angle. It's something different for sure.
It's different, and it's like yeah, there's just like a lot of music, a lot of like, I think too, like the young adults, it's kind of what I've noticed is everyone that I know in like music from touring that moved here, they're all in that same place where they're like, oh, I want to get my kids in school, or like,
Yeah.
I want to, I want to get a home for my family that's affordable, and
Yup. And
you know, what's kind of cool about Tennessee too, especially for touring, is, like it's, an hour and a half flight to Chicago, hour and a half to New
center.
York,
Oh yeah.
Florida, everything's just like kind of right there, so it makes it easy for
And
touring.
Tennessee's a music, a state in general. There's a lot of music.
Yeah.
They always had that touring, trucking, busing, all that type of shit is
Yep.
in the dirty South with a F.
Yeah, yeah, and you're right though about my family. Like that's always been a dream of mine, like to live near my mom. And now my mom is actually moving to Tennessee in the beginning of the year, so I'll
Oh,
be
that's
able,
dope.
because I left home, pretty early for California, when I was like 19, 20. So
Yeah, so yeah, that's what I was gonna say. You went from Florida and then straight from Florida to California, right? Like you
yeah,
just said, basically Florida. And
yeah.
all right, how many? So you moved out when you were 19. That I didn't know. Like I knew, but I never thought about it. Like, oh, when
About
the fuck did he move out?
Yeah, like 1920. I think I finally made the official move, like yeah, in when I was 20. So like around 2000. So it was 1920, like that sort of.
What I want to ask you is about your Florida come up because now I live in Florida, so
Yeah.
I got a little bit of a feel of the Florida feel in general. And I know people from Florida. There's two types of people from Florida. There's the people that love, their Florida down, like oh I love, and then the other ones that are trying to get out of Florida.
Yes.
They want to be somewhere. They all want to be in New York, and I don't even know now if they want to be somewhere else.
Yeah.
What was your Florida experience like? Because I see it from my music. I compare it to also how my son is coming up.
Yeah.
Like, like out here, it's very common. Your friends on the football team, you play baseball, that you do a rock climbing, the
Yeah.
activities, the type of stuff. In New York, we hung out in an empty fucking schoolyard. You know what I
Wow,
mean? It
that's
was kind
crazy.
of like, it was kind of like, so I'm seeing there's stuff about it I like, but I
Yeah.
know there's a lot of Floridians that are like, "Yo, I'm sick of Florida," and I'm like, I
Yeah.
kind of like the. What was your Florida experience like? Because you did Florida, then West Coast, and
Yeah.
then
And
the world.
yeah, exactly. For sure. No, for me, I was the one in the band who didn't want to move to California. I loved Florida. Like growing up there, I loved it. I didn't want to move, and I finally did it for the band because everyone else in the band wanted to move. They're like, we want to go make the record. We want to stay out there. And our manager at the time, it was a different world when we got
Yeah.
signed. So they're like, if you're out here, you'll be able to do interviews more, promote the band.
Facts.
And
Yeah.
now it doesn't matter. Here we are. But
Yeah.
back then it was like you got to move out there, and it's just better for the business. And I saw the opportunity in front of me, and all my friends, like all my like, friends like in Miami and Fort Lauderdale, like like the hardcore scene, that I grew up with, they all were like, dude, this is a huge opportunity. Like,
Hell
don't
yeah.
don't stay because of us. They're
Yeah.
like,
Yeah. Hell
we're
yeah.
just
Hell yeah.
gonna do our thing, like you go for it, So they supported me, and my family too. My brother went to college and moved away for college when I was like 15. So like my parents were used to, my older brother left for college. So they're like, oh,
Yeah.
this is
Somebody. Yeah. 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 That's good.
your opportunity. So I was supported, but yeah, I didn't want to leave. But once I left, the first time, the first time I remember going back there and visiting, I was like, oh man, like it's so hot. Like, how did I live here? This is crazy. Like, what the hell?
Yeah.
Like the roads are so wide and everything's like
Yeah.
a drive, and like it's just so hot, and then people are like pissed off sometimes. But like, but then I still loved it. You know, my dad, you know, I think for me, when it became a weird place for me, when my dad passed away, that was it.
Yeah.
When
Because
my
then
dad
the
passed
memory.
away, memories. So when I'm there, I'm like, you know, I had
Yeah.
amazing memories, but it's kind of one of those it's a stinger, you know?
Yeah. No, I know how that shit goes. But it's funny. I learned how the Florida state of mind is with some people. I know some guys that grew up here and they're like, I want to get the fuck out of here.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I'm like, I still like it. And I see the lawlessness a little bit in South Florida.
Oh,
They got their,
it's the Wild West, man.
it really is. It's
Yeah,
like, if you forget when you say like, all right, like you're Tennessee or you're in the South, I'm like, yeah, but Florida's the South. Like,
yeah,
you can't get any, you know how it is. It's like,
dude.
one minute you got guys dancing salsa, then you got rednecks 20 minutes that way.
Yeah, dude, it was the
Insane.
craziest thing. I mean, you know, not to cut into Madball, but you know, like just to think about Madball, Hatebreed, Scarhead, the show at Club Q in Davie, Florida.
Yeah, insane.
That was
Insane.
that area is like where the rodeo is.
I know it's so
And
the road.
you guys played there. And as you know, like South Florida, it was all Hispanic, you
Yeah.
know, all your fans, you know, so it's like this, all of like that crowd and all of us in this rodeo hillbilly land that's
So
just
crazy.
right in the middle of, and you can drive, you know, 20 minutes away and it's completely different, you know?
I know, and I learned that about it, and I learned that exactly. There's like, you had that country feel in the mix like that. Like there's rodeos, there's cowboys, farms.
Yeah.
That's like a big part. It's crazy. Like it's insane. Like I learned it the more, some people just think it's like Scarface downtown Miami, and I'm like, no, that's just downtown Miami.
Yeah.
And all that shit. But okay, let me ask you this, because you're a music guy,
Yeah.
and everybody, and I know you have, like you say, a brother or whatever. How did you get into this type of into heavy music, alternative music, or whatever you want to call it, your own
Yeah.
music? And
Yeah.
that because we always either get put on through a family member, or you know what I mean, or in the household.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And you have like, I know you're so broad that now that I'm thinking about it, I can't even say, oh yeah, Chad was a metalhead as a kid. I know you like Metallica and you like this, but what were you? Because I never,
Yeah. It's sort
you
of,
were a little bit of everything.
exactly. You know, I think that's one thing I always try to explain is that, you know, the punk, metalhead, hardcore, whatever you call it, for me, it was more about mainstream and not mainstream, you
Yeah.
know? So what happened to me was my older brother was in high school when I was like, you know, he was like, my older brother is 5 years older than me. So when I was like fourth and fifth grade, he was freshman, sophomore. So he would bring home these, you know, records from his friends and go to concerts and get me like, oh, I think you'd like this band. I think you'd like this band. So believe it or not, one of the first records that I thought was a metal record that I heard, believe it or not, was Just Look Around, Sick of It All.
Oh, you thought that was a metal record?
Thought it was a metal record. And it wasn't like the old one. It wasn't like Blood, Sweat, No Tears. And it was before Scratch the Surface. It was just like, we just want the truth. You do the way. And I was like, oh, this is metal. This sounds like kind of like Metallica on the radio.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
This is like a cooler Metallica, you know?
Yeah.
And then my brother brought home Fugazi. And I was like, oh, this Fugazi's kind of cool. It's kind of got this like groove and and I was like, okay, I like Fugazi. I didn't know who Minor Threat was or anything. And then he brought home Operation Ivy. And I was like, this is cool. I was like, what, you know,
different.
Yeah. And I was like, as long as it's not on the radio.
Yeah, I'm in.
Yeah, I'm in. And so what happened from that was that got me into music. So I would ride my bike to Specs. I know it was Sid's. It was a music store, CD store in the mall by where I lived, Sid's. And it had.
What city?
In Coral Springs.
That was in Coral Springs, all right.
And where the record store is now a school. It was a mall that was like the dead mall, but it only had the one record store. And then they turned it in, they, you know, changed it. Now it's a school. But I would go to that and I would do the thing that I think a lot of kids did was the thank you lists. You know, I would look at the records. And then I'll tell you though, because I never told you the story, ride my bike in the back, that little 7-inch section. I'm flipping through. I see the cover of this 7-inch, dropping mini suckers.
Ah.
And I'm like, what is this, dude? I'm like, this
Yeah.
is crazy. What
Yeah.
is this? And I put it on, and Freddie's vocals on that record are really aggressive.
Yeah, crazy. Yeah.
Like,
He like came out of a garbage can.
yeah, the music's aggressive, but then the photo is so like street.
Yeah.
At the time, like, I never, and I was like, oh, this is awesome. So I remember buying that. I never told you that, but I remember buying that 7-inch, just flipping through, seeing the cover.
Yeah. That's funny because I bought the first Madball 7-inch because I would see Freddie jump on stage. I didn't know him when he was a little kid like that, but I would see him jump on stage, and I was like, yo, this is nuts. So I would go to Bleecker Bob's just to look at the 7-inch section to see a cover.
Yeah.
You would look for a new cover that looked dope or something, and you would buy it.
The live picture on the back.
Shit. I actually bought that the Ball of Destruction 7-inch because I was like, oh shit, they actually recorded something. And I go, wow, that's bugged out. I go, fuck it, let me buy it. And I ended up buying it. I don't know what happened to it. But you know what's funny? What I always remember that because you were involved at one of the staple shows in Madball's history when we talk about our first time in Florida, also playing Cheers.
Yeah.
So for everybody out there listening, so you got to remember the lay of the land. Now everybody's woke, everybody's Black, Spanish, and free spirited and all that. But back then, in general, hardcore music, pop punk music, punk rock music, you always had Latin and Black mix, but it was never the majority. We all know that.
Yeah.
And hardcore, even less. There was always Latins around and Blacks, but very small amount. So me and Freddie would have an ongoing joke where every show we would say, yo, how many Latinos in the house? Because it would just me and Freddie be lifting our hands. It'd just be me and him.
Yeah.
And it was an ongoing joke that it would just be me and him. Now we're playing Miami, Florida, Club Cheers the first time. And we're like, yo, any Latinos out there? And the whole place, we looked at each other, and me and Freddie could not believe it because we never seen that many Latin people into hardcore music. We didn't know about, I didn't know the whole hardcore, what do you call it? The whole culture in South Florida.
Yeah.
And to this day, I remember that show and everything about it. And then I remember when I met you, I talked about it, and you were like, I saw you at Club Cheers. I was probably the only white guy there. And you probably were the only white guy there.
I swear. I remember that show because I remember like, obviously like the show was amazing, but I remember feeling like a part of something. There's something bigger going on at that moment. Because once you guys said that, I don't know if you remember, you guys didn't speak English the rest of the show.
Yo, we did it all in Spanish. I forgot, but yeah.
The whole show in Spanish. And that meant so much for everyone there. And I remember
South Florida, yeah.
Yeah, like that, because that does, and vice versa. Most of the kids there, the fact that they got to speak, their, first language, with one of their favorite bands, that was like a really big moment. And it's funny, man. It's funny you mentioned that about like where he was talking about like the woke times and things where we live, because I posted a photo when this whole thing went down, the racism issue, because it flared up big again, obviously. There's always like racists walking in the street and saying like crazy things, and I remember posting something about it, how I was like, I'm really thankful that I grew up where I grew up in the scene and my parents exposing me. And, one of the comments was like, from someone, who doesn't even live where I live or know my life, was like, lucky for you, it's, your white dominated hardcore scene and blah, blah, blah. It's easy for you to say. And I was like, I can see like maybe where you live. And I get that, majority of the scene, yes, is for real dominated, in that way. But, growing up in South Florida, I grew up in Coral Springs, but all the shows were mainly in Cheers at the time. And it wasn't like that. And I was grateful for that because I was open-minded,
Yeah.
Hispanic kids, Black kids,
Yeah.
all different types of cultures would go to, and not only just Hispanic, but learning about different types of Hispanic culture.
Yeah.
Like
For sure.
my friend from Nicaragua, who is, very different from my friend from Cuba, is very different from my friend from Dominican Republic, from Ecuador,
Yeah.
my friend from Peru. It was like, people don't realize it's not just like, it's not even just about color. There's culture within all
Yeah.
different types of people.
For sure. For sure. And for me, it was dope because again, you always had some Spanish dudes around like Roger, whatever, but it was always sprinkled, And when going to my Florida, it was like, no, this is where, it's like I never seen that many Latin people at a show. The only place more than that was Buenos Aires, Argentina. You know what I mean? At the time, like, you saw, and even back then, South Florida's heavy Hispanic. Even at that time, there was a lot of Latin kids in general in the scene. But just the whole thing about that show, us coming down to Florida, with Freddie and Roger's history in Florida. And then it was funny when we met, we brought that up. I was like, and I literally said, you probably were, because I never seen a place that full of fucking Spanish motherfuckers in my life. But again, it's something besides South America. But South Florida got a strong, history with the scene, and especially with what's crazy, like the skinhead scene, the ska scene, also like that style, like how it was up north, not like just punk rock. It was like, you had a lot of the old elements.
Yeah, that's true. You're so right. There used to be there's this venue, that's, I think it's the Revolution now, or Chili Pepper, one of those, in Fort Lauderdale, that venue. But
Revolution,
when it was the Edge, it used to be called the Edge, and when it was the Edge, that when ska was big, there was that weekend. There was every weekend was just ska shows, and skinheads, and from West Palm Beach would come down.
Yeah, the West Palm had a lot of skinheads.
A lot of skinheads, and ska was big there, and kind of, it was kind of interesting because I think that. I even think I remember going on tour for the first time and seeing other scenes and music scenes, and just being thinking about where we grew up, because it was almost as you know, how you lived there for a while now, it's almost like living on an island, where we didn't know, especially at the time, no internet, no social media, can't really see what's going on in the outside world. But we hear the music and you hear the lyrics and you kind of see a little bit of the culture on TV. But the closest major city from South Florida, to another state, is, another state's 12 hours away.
Yeah, I know. It's crazy.
So you're not mixing ideas. You're just
it definitely has its own ideas out here, boy.
You're living in your own bubble. But I think it's a kind of a cool thing because, especially with the bands that came from there and the different styles, it's just you kind of had to make your own world. Everyone made your own world up, and it worked, and there's, it was just for me, it was a really cool place to grow up, and that's why I didn't want to leave, And I was just saying, when you're talking about your kids too, with the sports and stuff, even when I was little, before I ever got into music, that too, South Florida, I used to hang out at the park and play baseball and basketball, and it's kind of tries to take care of the younger generation.
Absolutely. There's teams with uniforms. You don't understand, in New York as a kid, to be able to join a team that has a real uniform, that alone was that only happens on TV or in the more important public schools, and then paid schools. Mm-hmm. It was just like that. It was just it ain't like a culture like over here. There's leagues up the ass for soccer, football, baseball, all ages, swimming. It's insane. It's dope for a kid, you know what I mean? And you don't gotta be rich to do it. It's available and all that shit. And then it's but yeah, so you start how you're a guitar guy first. Did you found music first or the guitar first? Or when you started listening to rock music and heavy music, did the guitar come to play, or was it as a kid?
Yeah, actually, you'd appreciate this. I was a bass guy first.
Oh, I never knew that. I didn't know you were a bass guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now I like you. Now I like you a little bit more.
Yeah. Well, crazy story. I used to take bass lessons at this little place where I grew up from this guy named Gary. Years later, I'm in, Newfound Glory, and Ian, my bass player, took lessons from the same dude.
God, get
So we
out of
used to
here.
like pass each other in the hallway because I remember seeing him like, oh, this is this like crazy punk guy, and we took lessons from the same bass teacher. Crazy.
That's crazy. And
Yeah.
how long you played? All right, so did you play bass in a band or you just jammed
Yeah.
in your room?
Yeah, that's kind of where I kind of got in the hardcore, the whole, I guess, transition is I played in a little garage metal band. We were called Backscatter, which was
Oh
like,
shit.
yeah, it was like when a grenade like explodes, it's like whatever hits other people. It's like the
It
back.
backscatters. It backscatters. That's what happens.
Yeah,
Everybody knows
so
that.
yeah, I was in Backscatter, and I remember like, man, I wish I could find the logo. Like we would like skate to the skate shop, and the guy that worked at the skate shop drew like a picture, and that was like our logo. It was like this dude with long hair that had a bionic arm and a gun. Like,
There you go. That's all you need.
so we played like a random local show. I don't even really understand fully how we got on it, but we played a random local show opening for two hardcore bands.
Wow.
And it was this band Tension and Strong Arm, and those guys saw us and were like, dude, you guys are so little, like this is crazy, like why are you playing, you're playing metal and you're like so little, like this is whatever. Then and they started talking to me, and I was like, oh yeah, I'm straight edge, and they're like, oh, you know what straight edge is? I'm like, yeah, I don't do drugs, and they're like, cool. Well, they're like, and that was kind of like, oh, you should hang out with us, and they kind of took me under their wing, and that's when, but I was still in Backscatter, and we'd play like random little shows, and I'd play bass. And then I started actually playing bass guitar for Tension. They became my friends, and so I started playing bass, which that was in a band with Ray from Vietnam.
Yeah, all right. I know you heard about, but I didn't put it together with that, and I never knew you played bass either. I know you could play bass, but I
Yeah.
never knew you started.
So
I didn't know.
me and Ray were in a band together when I was like a little kid.
That's
And
crazy.
yeah, small world. So I was in, yeah. So me and Ray, I was in his band Tension for a little bit, and then someone heard me scream, and then I switched from bass and started singing in Shai Hulud. And then while I was singing in Shai Hulud, I would just mess around on guitar, and
Oh,
my stepbrother. This is kind of what the transition that happened is my stepbrother Blake, who I live with, my mom, my stepfather, me and Blake, and my older stepbrother. He played drums, but he used to have all those like West Coast punk skate videos.
got
So
you.
he loved punk, and then I loved more of the heavier stuff. So me and him started jamming in my living room, like, punk rock songs, just for fun, just like whatever. And Jordan, who sings in my band, came over one day because he was in hardcore and heard me playing punk songs with my brother, and was like, oh, you should play in my band. And then that was Newfound Glory.
That's right. Okay, so right before Newfound Glory, it was Shai Hulud, obviously, right? Or
Yeah.
around the same time,
Yep.
right?
Yeah, I did both.
And how and all right, and how did the Shai Hulud thing? Because people love that band also, and it has a little bit of his own history or whatever.
Yeah.
How did you fall into that? Did you go to school with those guys? How did that start?
Shai Hulud happened because of Tension. I was playing bass in Tension, and I would scream backups in like the microphone. And people and they saw me. They were having problems with their singer who did their demo, and they heard me scream backups in the backup mic, and heard me scream at shows. And they're like, "This, hey, you could scream." And then they're like, "You're too young. We want to tour." And then they eventually asked me to be in the band, and they came over and met my mom, and my mom like let me tour with them and stuff.
Yeah, and that's dope that they did that. And how long were you in the band, and what did you record with them?
I recorded 3 records. I recorded the 7-inch, which I think was, let me tell you, let me look at Spotify.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I got to see the times. Let me see. Yeah, so I did 3 things. I did the 7-inch, the full length, and a split. Us and that band from New York, Indecision, we did a split.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So yeah, it was like 97, 96, 97,
That's
98.
crazy, 'cause that's old now. Like, now the
Yeah,
90s stuff, it's like now it's over 20 years old.
it's wild. I know. And
Yeah,
it's still,
yeah,
that feels new to me. Like when I posted,
yeah.
like, I was like, oh, the show is in like 2000. And I was like, oh, that's kind of like newer. And I was like, oh, wait, that's 21
So
years.
yeah, and then I kind of remember you told me that that felt that you were doing Newfound and that because exactly you guys were friends and you said, hey, let's do this punk rock band. And when you started with New, all right, this is what and we talked about this years ago. I forgot, how did the name come up? Like, who came up with it? I always used to say it sounded like an oi band because I
Yeah,
used to hear Newfound Glory, and I was like, oh, this nigga plays in an oi band.
dude.
This guy plays like, and I would hear because when Newfound was starting to pop, and then I was like, what kind of band? Like, I didn't put it together, and I was like, Newfound Glory, oh, that
Yeah.
name, that's the glory, the
Yeah.
drink a beer and Newfound, and
That's
all
the
that.
few things we get. Like when we first started, we even got offered a tour, I think, with the business.
Yeah, oh,
And
that's hard.
yeah, like in the States, like this is like before we really had anything. We had a little buzz, and I think they heard the name and thought the same
Yeah,
thing because we got
totally. Oh,
offered that. So people think that, and then they also think we're a worship band.
yeah.
Like,
Well, that too. I never thought of that, but I could see that
yeah,
too. I
especially in
could see that.
Tennessee, because where I live
That
now.
oh yeah, Tennessee's a lot of those like Bible rock bands or whatever,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
Stretch Armstrong, right. Those
Stretch
guys are like,
Armstrong, they're Carolinas, but
but they
yeah,
were like religious guys, weren't they? They
yeah,
were good guys, they were cool guys. We played with, but they were like a Christian
yeah,
band too. Yeah,
for sure.
Southern Christian core bands and all that.
Yeah, because I'll be at a coffee shop and people will be like, they'll see me with tattoos or something. They'll talk to me here, and I'll be like, yeah. They're like, what do you do? And you kind of avoid the question sometimes because you feel like,
Yeah,
whatever. You
yeah,
don't want to like, because immediately they'll be like, are you famous?
yeah.
So
I
I'm
know.
like, oh
Yeah,
yeah, I just play music. Like I'm like, oh, in a band, Newfound Glory. They're like, oh, worship band.
yeah,
Like,
yeah. Yeah, that was like a story. We're gonna talk about Hazen Street in a little bit, but so I used to have the big gold cross I used to have, and we had played a show somewhere on tour, and like this blonde white girl and this white guy, blonde hair, they look like Mormon, nice looking people, but like really Mormonish looking, like
yeah,
Children of the Corn kind. And they came up to me like, "Great show, brother." And then they pointed to my cross, and they're like the cross. They go like this, and they were like, um, on one of the songs, I guess Freddie says something like, I forgot what he says. Like, I don't know if he says like "God help me" or something. One
yeah,
of our songs, and they were like, "Yes, yeah," like your song says. And I was like, "Oh shit, they think we're a Christian band."
yeah.
And then it was like, but pretty
They're your,
funny. Yeah, yeah, it's crazy when they
they're your
think.
family, dude.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
I know.
well, I'm not a heathen sloth like a lot of these people
Yeah.
out there in the world,
No, I'm a
but
believer for sure, but I'm
but yeah,
not in
some
a,
are too a believers.
yeah, I'm not a, Newfound Glory is not a worship band. Well, I guess, yeah, I mean,
Oh, but who came up with the name? How did that
oh,
pop up? Like what? So how
dude,
that what?
it's probably, it's the lamest story. Basically, our friend Amy, who used to book shows at Cheers,
Shout
she
out to
booked
Amy Cheers.
Cheers, yeah, Amy Cheers, and then yeah, so she was like, hey, I need a name for the flyer because she knew that I played in Shia Lute. So she's like, oh yeah, I got you a show, but let me know the name. And we didn't have one. And I hit up Jordan, our singer. I'm like, dude, she needs a name. What's the deal? So he was a dishwasher at Red Lobster. So
Yeah, it's hard.
yeah, Red Lobster was next to Barnes and Noble. So just on break at work, he just went over and started like flipping through things and like drawing things and just looking at words and stuff. And that band, Get Up Kids, has a song called Newfound Interest in Massachusetts. He really liked them. So he took Newfound from that. He wrote that down and then was looking around. I was like, Glory, I guess. Like, and he wrote it on a flag. And he's
Yeah,
like, just Newfound Glory. I'm like, man, I don't really like that, but we'll figure it out. We just need to play the show. So put Newfound Glory on the flyer, but we're probably going to change our name.
yeah, oh, yeah. That's it.
And that's it.
It's like that's like a nickname. Once you say don't do it, that's it. It sticks forever.
Yeah. And I'm like, man, because I don't even know what it is. It's
Yeah,
just
yeah. That's a good part. You can make it whatever it is. You can give it
yeah,
some fantasy meaning. And
yeah,
then how long? So okay, obviously with that band, you've done a lot. The most you've ever done, with all your bands, obviously, and you got to
yeah.
do some big shit with that. How long? All right, first label you guys were on.
So we were that girl Amy was had a label called Fiddler Records. And it's
Uh-huh.
crazy. It was just a local Miami label. She ended up putting out like Dashboard when he was local and
Wow.
different things. So we were on her label locally for our first EP. And then there's a hardcore label locally called Eulogy Records.
Yeah.
Eulogy had like the guy in there was in that metalcore band Morning Again, who was big in
Yep.
Europe. They were big in Europe at the time. And he's like, I got European distribution. And we were like, whoa, that's cool. Like, so we'll,
I'm in.
yeah, we're in European distribution. Like, we didn't know what that even meant, but it sounded fancy. And we just paid for our record. We all took $200, paid for our record, and he like printed it and distributed it. And then we just started touring that CD. And when we were at a show in Jersey, the guys in this band Midtown saw us play.
Some of them.
Yeah, they saw us play, liked our CD, gave it to Drive Through Records. Drive Through
I
signed
remember
us.
the drive through.
Yeah, and Drive Through was our label for a while, and they had an upstream deal with MCA, where MCA like funded the label and helped them out, and then if they saw a band they wanted, they could take them. So MCA took us from Drive Through once we started like, touring
Yeah.
and making a name for ourselves and stuff.
Yeah, and with so how? All right, this is the thing because also it's all these worlds are different. The hardcore world, that world,
Yeah.
the more pop punk world, the radio world or whatever. How long? All right, you put out the 7-inch on Fiddler, whatever records, and you're playing out. How, when do you get picked up by the next label? When does Drive Through pick you up? Like how long after the first recording?
Drive Through, I think licensed it in 99 or 98,
So a
98.
couple years later.
Yeah.
And when did you start seeing? Because Newfound Glory got to do some big things. When
Yeah.
did you start seeing like, yo, okay, this shit is starting to make some noise, like real noise, not just like, we're playing a couple of cool bars, they're packing out,
Yeah.
like the next step up. Like,
I would
when do
say
you start feeling that?
the next step up, I think, even though it was still smaller, I remember New Jersey, like where there was this place called the Wayne Firehouse, and our booking agent would be like, "Oh, I got you on a show in New Jersey," and we'd be in Florida, and we'd be like,
Yeah,
"All right, we'll make it," and we would drive up and play like 3 shows, and then head home for like a long weekend,
yeah.
and we'd show up to Wayne Firehouse, and it would just be sold out, 600 kids, and
Uh,
before that, we were playing Rutgers Basement to like 11 people. And
Yeah.
so once it went from like, 11 to 100 to selling out Wayne Firehouse, which again, 500 kids, 600 kids,
Oh yeah.
and
Kidding
they're
me?
all wearing your t-shirts and all that
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah, they're there for
We were
you.
like,
Not yeah, they're there for
yeah.
you.
And it was crazy, and I
Yeah.
think the other bands in the scene up there really started to see that. And it's sort of like, I think it's cool. It started really building something, in that area. And that's always been our biggest area, New Jersey, Boston,
Yeah.
and kind of
Yeah,
this, and
Northeast.
it kind of started happening where same thing, we would play a show opening up for a band at the Middle East in Boston, or Bill's Bar on Lansdowne. Like, Elgin had a band called World Is My Fuse.
Yeah.
And I knew him from 454 Big Block. So he would let me open for their band, and it would be like, a couple people, they were all there to see his band. And there'd be
Yeah.
like, a couple hundred people, 300 people, packed Bill's Bar, and we would just open, and then gradually same thing.
Yeah.
And
Start
what
seeing.
was really cool about Newfound was because we had like these friends in these markets, it was I feel like we had an advantage because it became like we weren't just like a band touring, we were a part of the community in these like places. It's like
Yeah.
Long Island, we had how it is, like Long Island, we had our little family. New Jersey, we had our family. Boston, we had our little family. And, you know, I think the longest place took for us was more of the West Coast, believe it or not. We were
That's
definitely
crazy. Yeah.
more of an East Coast band. Well, because like for us, the East Coast had like East Coast had Civ, right? They
Yeah.
had Civ, they had H2O, they had Saves a Day, they had like, you know, Black Train Jack before.
Yeah.
So if there was a hardcore band or a punk band that was kind of aggressive that had vocals, it was like already understood. There's maybe
Yeah.
some references where we didn't fit in the West Coast because at the time it was all like needly needly needly, like
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
fast, you know, and we weren't
I know
that
what you mean.
we weren't that at the time, and we wore like t-shirts and baggy pants or not, you know,
Yeah.
whatever we wore at the time. Like we were just more like regular dudes, where the West Coast at the time was super punk rock.
That's what I was gonna say. You guys don't got the surf punk in you. You know,
Yeah,
you're not surfy. Like out there, the punk is that surf punk and different kind of punk. You know,
yeah, and
for
it took
sure.
time because I remember when we first played Warped Tour as like a side stage band, like those bands didn't, you know, embrace us. You know, it was like we really kind of had to carve out our own kind of niche, like everywhere, carve out our own little like place. You know,
Yeah.
because it was like we started getting those fans because we started touring with more punk bands. But in the beginning, like I remember one of the first bigger tours we got was with Real Big Fish.
Uh-huh. Yeah, my boy
And
used to love that band.
huh?
I have a friend that used to love that
Really?
band, Real Big Fish. Yeah.
So imagine opening for Real Big Fish, growing up in like our shows and community, and you're playing first and people are throwing stuff at you. I'm like, we were playing and like
Yeah.
couldn't get it, you know?
I know. Yeah.
And they're like
I
throwing
know.
stuff at us. Like, who are these kids? And they're like pegging us with coins and quarters. I'm getting hit in the head with quarters and getting booed. And
That's
we're just like,
amazing.
screw it. We're just gonna keep, you know, playing this
That's what you
halftime
do. You
part.
keep playing.
But
I
people would throw
know.
stuff at us, you know?
That's amazing. And how many records have Newfound done in total? Like
Um,
albums, full out, not counting like an EP or this, like or whatever you
well,
call it,
we
little
have 10
special.
albums.
Jesus
10,
Christ.
yeah, 10 full albums.
We're working on our 10th now, man. You guys got us beat by an album.
Let's go.
Yeah, Josh, man, fucking.
You
And
guys
then,
had a vacation for a little bit though.
well, Freddie had a vacation. Let's just
You
say.
got you
Let's
had
just
some,
say.
yeah.
Yeah, and then right now, oh yeah, and when I was talking to you the other day, talk about that a little bit. You're doing the Christmas special with
Yeah.
Newfound, right?
Yeah,
And you
no,
guys always would do some holiday shit. Always, you always did that. What was this shit? What was the whole
yeah.
layout
So
of this thing?
this is like we you know, kind of like we were talking about, like getting inspired during this whole time. I just started writing songs. Like honestly, like it came down like this. My stepfather passed away last November. And when he passed away, he gave me, after he passed away, I got two of his guitars. One of them is an old Rickenbacker, Carl Wilson, like Beach Boys kind of guitar. So I just been messing with that. And Beach Boys have that like a pretty cool, pretty sick Christmas record. So
Yeah,
I've taken my stepfather's guitar, and I kind of feel like, not to sound like all like superstitious or weird like that. I'm not like that at all, but I do feel like when you pick up a different guitar, it makes you play differently.
yeah,
You know, like I'm sure there's a guitar you pick up when you're ready to
of
riff,
course.
and there's a guitar you pick up when you're ready to just kind of like play something
Yeah,
else. So I picked,
yeah,
yeah,
sure.
so I picked up the Rickenbacker, and I just started writing these songs that had this sort of like Christmassy feel, and I ended up writing like seven songs. And,
Jesus, yeah,
and so we're like, there's no way to release these because it's not enough time to like put them out, do whatever. So what if we filmed videos for all the songs and made like like different gags and skits and like things interactive? So instead of just doing a normal live stream, we can almost make it like a mini movie, you know?
got you.
So
That's
it's
dope.
just, yeah, it's just kind of a way for people to like take this thing, and the cool thing is they've never heard the songs. So
Yeah, all new shit.
so the only way they're going to be able to hear them is to get the stream. and then after like a week, it goes away, and then next
Yeah.
year we'll actually release the song. So, we think people obviously are gonna like rip them and do all that kind of stuff, but
Yeah,
it's
but yeah,
it's
no,
fun.
it's a good angle. That's what we got to look for, these angles on,
Yeah,
what's the next angle, period.
yeah,
Exactly how we distribute the music, and where we get compensated for the work put into it. If it's the views, if it's the sales, or if it's whatever. Yeah,
yeah,
that's the shit we got to figure out. People forget that music's already basically free. You
yeah,
know what I mean? Right, right. We put out. That's why everybody puts out singles now. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Because it's like, you got to put it out free, and you hope, okay, get spins, okay. But the main thing was touring. You know what I mean? That's what
yep.
it became, like
Touring and
touring and merch and all that shit, which is fucking
yeah,
so insane how everything it is, and fucking But yeah, I've seen you guys keeping busy, which is good. You keeping busy with that, but you guys always, Newfound always seem to keep busy anyway. Like,
yeah. Thanks, man. Yeah, we love it, and like even the special that we did, like we really put a lot into it. Like, man, honestly, it's one of the hardest things we worked on, and it could be one of the worst things we've ever done, or it could be, the
yeah,
best. It could be our some kind of monster,
yeah, yeah, I know
Metallica.
what you mean. I know what you mean. But the good thing is, I think throwing anything out there right now is dope. Because
Yeah,
the same thing. Like, this is why I relaunched the podcast. I've been wanting to do it, but excuses, this, and that, and then the COVID shit happened. Then how do we keep the brand alive? How do and then technology caught up, and I'm like, no, fuck it. We could bring it back. It keeps me,
yeah,
connected still. And then same thing, how do we push our brands with
yeah,
today's, with the times now and all that
yeah.
shit. So it's like,
And I think with Madball, and obviously Newfound's a different genre, but Madball's, you guys are workhorses, but besides workhorses, it's more than just music. You know,
yeah,
through Madball, there's a whole different side of culture you're able to hear about, learn about, and
yeah,
experience. I think that's the same thing with Newfound Glory. Like with our stream, we're not only promoting our music, but we're also talking about all these different things, from
yeah,
cultural things we're into, bands we're into. So it's like, I think we mean a lot to our fans, Madball, Newfound, and those like career type bands, because it's not even just, it's more than just the music, like,
yeah.
you know what I mean? Like your fans
No,
are
for sure,
there,
they
and
grow with us. Our crowds grew with us. You know what I
yeah,
mean? And exactly, it's like that's what happens when you're a band long enough.
yeah,
Because you're not you. It's who we are. It's not okay. We were this for 3 years. We were this for 6 years. You know
yeah,
what I mean? No, it's who we are. So it's like it means different. And
yeah,
I get that. And the same shit, like we come from alternative scenes.
yep,
So that already on top, it's already a little bit harder than everything else, is to stay afloat and stay on the cutting edge of what's going on. So it's
yeah,
like, that's why all this type of shit is good, that people were doing mad podcasts around, mad merchandise. I said that shit keeps the whole the movement alive, because
yeah,
people spreading information
yep.
kind of
And
shit.
too, from being a band for so long, that like every 4 years something changes, and maybe back in the day, like you might have been more hesitant to do it, or I might have been more hesitant to do it. But then we've been on the other side of things now. We're like, no, everything's important. Like,
Yes.
I remember being like, oh, I don't need a MySpace. Who gives a crap about
Yeah.
this?
Oh, exactly. Yep.
And
No,
then
everything.
I was like too cocky for it. Like, oh no, our
Yeah.
band, people already know us. We don't need that. But it's like, it's not that even that you need it or don't need it. It's that you find ways where your fans are going to be, and they want you there, so they could like, you know,
Yep. Exactly. I treat it as, people's phones. I look at it this way. They're the morning paper. They're the evening paper. What you do, you get people that randomly tell me read the paper. You read from the sports section, what happened in crime, what happened in politics, to what's on TV. So what happens is the same thing. What happens, you need it becomes a part of your everyday routine.
yeah,
Getting that paper, having your lunch. Same thing with this. People go like, a podcast or whatever. They go, I know I'm on my ride to work. I got this. I listen to my music.
yeah,
Music is very important. I don't know how they do not think that this is not essential when it's like, are you kidding me? There's music, literally, there's music in buildings in an elevator where nobody's in it. There's music going on right now. Why? It's supposed to do it, it enhances the experience. It does something to the body, no matter where you are. When you're at a store, it makes you want to buy. When you're eating, makes you hungry. It's
Yeah.
soft. And the cops would blast loud music to get fucking Pablo Escobar out of his fucking house. Music is used for everything. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? And I'm like, it's so crazy how, how many people hit me up and are like, yo, they're bugging out. We're bugging out because we can't play, and they're bugging out because they got nowhere to release. They're going to work and their girlfriend breaking up with them and all that. And I
Yeah.
don't think about it that way. Like, I'm like, fuck, we get that from playing.
Yeah.
We relieve our attention and shit. And I'm like, man, they don't got that, which double sucks for them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's like,
Sure.
we're fucking lucky to be able to do what we're doing. But fucking what I wanted to ask you, and a lot of people that would ask me for you, especially, and they're like, when are you gonna get Chad? Because this was a big thing on everybody. A lot of people asked me for is Hazen Street.
Yeah.
Obviously that was like that's kind of the thing that connected all of us. Was obviously Toby had a big part of connecting the dots for us, but
Yeah.
also, you with everything Hazen Street, like even late, the band did better as after we stopped playing. The
Yeah.
legacy of that band, of that project,
Yeah, it got its
stood
chance,
strong.
it got its chance like after, where people
Yeah,
in
exactly.
the beginning it was like it was being pushed where people were like, wait, what is this? And then they had
Yeah,
time to get it, and then like, oh,
exactly. And a lot of people know the story because again, for a lot of people out there that don't know the story, well, Chad is a big part of everything that we did, but there was a lot of legal issues that were
yeah,
involved, because is that still your label or your former label?
former label. We could talk some crap. Let's talk some
Okay, yeah. Well,
yeah.
long story short was, basically Chad had, all those songs, music was all Chad, and Freddie had a lot to do with the lyrics, and Chad was a big part of it. But he was signed with Newfound Glory to another label, and and the legal issues become crazy, especially in that world
Well, I don't
where
even yeah, I don't even know, like, I don't know if you remember, this is a full like, can we talk about the whole story?
of course we can. That's what I wanted. I'm wondering if you
Yeah.
could talk about it
Yeah.
nowadays.
So I don't know if you remember the two phases of Hazen Street, and because I think I forget if I brought this up to Toby, whatever. But so here's what happened. So the first phase of Hazen Street, our very first demo, I don't know if you remember, there's an Australian guy named Gary Ashley. We used to work, we used to play at Swing House. Remember the
Yes.
practice? Our
Yes, I
first
remember.
practices before we had Mackie,
Uh-huh.
okay, my friend Jason filled in.
I remember that.
And that whole thing was paid for by Gary Ashley, who actually passed away, rest in peace. Gary Ashley signed Newfound Glory back in the day. Gary Ashley was getting into signing. He's the one that's him and that guy Hans or whatever signed H2O.
Okay.
Remember H2O was on MCA.
Yes.
So MCA had Newfound Glory, H2O at the time, or like right after that, or right before. Yeah, like H2O was on MCA. And Gary Ashley came to me and was like, do you have some bands you want to sign? And I was like, yeah, I want to sign this band Piebald. I think they'd be sick. So he would go see them. There's this band Juliana Theory that had this record that was doing well. And I was like, oh, you should check them out. And there's like a couple other bands. And I was like, and I'm going to work on a new project with these dudes. And that was with you guys. So Gary's like, cool, let's get you in a room and blah, 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 blah. So we got together, we did those demos. He loved the demos. I was also working on a Bjork cover album. And Gary Ashley's like, this is sick. This is what we're going to do, blah, blah, blah. Maybe give an imprint or whatever it is, but you'll be on MCA because I was signed MCA. During that process, MCA folded.
Uh-huh.
MCA disappeared. And this guy named Jordan Schur came in to take over. So since our project was still going, and things weren't fully transitioned, everyone that worked for me in Newfound before they lost their jobs just went, go do it. So do it. Don't ask, just do it. So we did it. We switched over. We made the album. We recorded it. No permission. They're like, hey, it's already under, like, you were greenlit. So we started working on it, did the whole thing. And then it was done. And the new boss, all the people that worked for Newfound were gone, fired. The MCA folded completely. Geffen dropped every band they didn't want. They took Newfound Glory, they took Blink and a couple other bands and took us to Geffen. So I went in, I was like, oh yeah, also I have this band. And he's like, what are you talking about? I'm like, yeah, I just did this record. And he's like, you're under contract with us. You can't be promoting another album. You have to promote our album. I was like, yeah, but I had this and that. And I'm like, you guys already said I could do it. So they could have completely like pulled the plug on me and not even let knowing that I played on it.
Yeah, let your tracks on.
Right? And all that stuff. So I was like, dude, and it sucked because obviously, like, Madball's my favorite hardcore band.
Yeah, and that was your shit. You were a big part of it. That was all your shit.
Yeah, busted my butt. But my mentality was, what is it? What's that saying? Like, do it, like ask for forgiveness later, like on those risks, like you take the risk and then if, so that's what I did. And so when I went in there with the record, we already went to Epic because they were like, oh yeah, we don't, the new label didn't know what it was. Because that's what happens that's the thing. What sucks about major labels is that it is like any old business. If you're the new manager of some like upstart company and you take over, you fire who you don't like and you hire your friends. Yeah. And the relationship between the client and it doesn't matter. They don't care. Yeah. And all we are just the product at the time on the shelf. So they're like, I got to protect my product and you can't go with another label as well.
Yeah, no, of course. Yeah. No, I get it. And I remember that part.
Yeah. So, but that's what originally it was going to be awesome because
originally it was going to be great.
I had permission and it was paid for. The demos, the first 2-3 demos were paid for by MCA.
I didn't know that. I didn't know none of that. Everything you just told me, I didn't know. I just remember you were like, yeah, these motherfuckers are flipping on me. I can't show my face. For everybody out there, even in the video we did for Fool the World, you catch a glimpse of Chad. And even then, I think we played ourselves like, at the time, we risked even putting you in there for that millisecond because we weren't sure how they were going to react.
And it sucked, man, because there's two elements. Like there was obviously like, like maybe you didn't feel this way, but I kind of felt like maybe like Toby or some people might have thought that I didn't want to do it, and it's like,
no, you know what? In all fairness, I never got that feeling, and I don't think anybody in the band had that feeling. We always knew, we always had the feeling that it was like they got you by the balls, the record company. Because we knew when every time you came, you wanted to play. But we were like, fuck, we can't even get this motherfucker in the video, without, second guessing it. We're like, we don't want to blow him up. And we remember your name couldn't be on the record in certain ways. And
well, that was a lot about it. In the back of my head, I was like, man, I hope these dudes don't feel like
we know.
Yeah, because that's the thing. It's like, it sucked because, that was one of the best, like, I think musically learning to play with you and Mackie. Because I remember that first practice, it was like, because Cyrus plays a little bit ahead of the beat. And Cyrus is a beast, but I'm used to playing with Cyrus. And then Mackie comes.
Yeah.
And he's a mile behind the beat.
Yeah. And that was me also playing with Mackie the first time. And then we're not playing hardcore, we're playing some other shit on top of that. So that was great. And what was crazy, you remember Cyrus, he ended up recording some demos for us, didn't he? In the studio?
I'm not sure. I
I'm
can't remember.
I'm telling you, he fucking recorded one of our rehearsals or something.
Oh yeah. He recorded. Yeah. You're
Because I
right.
remember him being in the studio like we were us rehearsing and doing tapes. And I get it all confused when I was talking with Dave because I know we did the demo in that one studio by Amoeba. It was a little studio. We did one of the demos there,
You're
and
right.
then
A
and
little
then I
sunset
forgot where.
stack, sunset something.
I just remember them saying that was the Foo Fighter studio. The
Yeah.
dude owned. Yeah, I just remember that. That's all I remember. That us doing the demo, one of the demos there. I remember rehearsing at the Swing House, and I remember that was a good time. All those Swing House fucking rehearsals, like
Welcome to the smoking
CasaDeRock.com,
word.
home of that fly DIY. You want to support the show? Go cop some merch right now. We got a lot of new t-shirts, shorts, and caps available. Everything is made in-house by your boy on the spot. So show some love, support the movement. CasaDeRock.com is the spot.
people don't know. It's a studio, rehearsal studio in California, but you would get all these bands, and I would see the Bengals and the Breeders rehearsing. I'd go to their door and start listening to them, like walk like
Yeah.
an Egyptian, like
Dude,
listen to
remember
their fucking
that?
door.
That was wild.
Yeah,
That was such an amazing experience, man. Like I always talk
yeah,
about, I think making that record, and honestly, like working with you and Freddie, and I tell people like all the time, I'm like Madball, like your guys, you're musicians. You know what I
yeah.
mean? And like it's not just
You know,
it's like songwriting is like,
yeah. We got definitely that's like our shape. Like we're a hardcore band, but we wanted to show people we could write song. And there's something that I learned from you. I tell everybody from recording that record. I remember one day we're there, and again, I'm so used to like obviously any record, even like that record. There's thousands and thousands of dollars. There's big, there's money behind it. When we would do the Madball record, same thing. There's still thousands of dollars behind these records. So I was so used to stress being like, yo, we don't, the songs gotta, we gotta keep up with the quality, enough song. You know how it goes when you're writing a record early on, blah, blah, blah. And then all my records I've ever done were stress, stress, stress. And then here we are, we're recording obviously there's a bigger budget, so there was more time, a little bit more easy. But I
yeah,
remember one day you're recording guitars, and I'm standing there. It was like obviously the first layers of guitar, and you're playing the guitar, and I'm sitting there, and I'm like, okay, we got the guitars. I'm taking everything so like, okay, kind of, and you're like talking to me. You're like, you're doing a part on the guitar, and you're on your phone, and like you're like, yo, look, and you're like jumping up, like doing like you the today jumps, and in my head I'm like, yo, nigga, take this shit seriously, and I'm like, wait a minute, I go, he's playing the shit right, and he's not playing it, and I go, you know, records have a vibe, they're alive. And
yeah,
I'm like, why am I so stressed? I go, he's not stressed, and he's fucking laying the guitars down. Why the fuck should I be so stressed? And then I would do that where I learned like we know what we got to do. So
yeah,
do it however. Because I remember you be playing. I'm like, we're literally tracking tracks to go on the record, and you're like, yo, look at this, and I'm kind of in my head like, yo, nigga, pay attention. In my head, I'm thinking like, yo, take it, yo, focus. And I'm like, but he's not playing it right. So like,
yeah,
and then I learned like, hey, you gotta be, if you feel good, it's gonna come out in the music and in the
yeah,
vibe and all that type of shit. And then that's what I would start to do. After that, I would be like, we've done enough records. We know what we got to do, like
yeah,
performance wise. Now it's like, okay,
yeah. Feel
you
good.
got
Like
now you got to execute. We
yeah,
trained. Now is the fight. Like I get it. Like when the UFC guys, people don't understand when they hear their cornerman say, "All right, yo, now just have fun."
yeah,
All the hard work is done.
yeah,
You now just like exactly vibing. I got that from you because I remember looking at you and I'm like in my head I was like, all right, Chad,
yeah,
stop joking,
yeah.
whatever. But I'm like, you're recording everything, and then I was like,
That's
word, he knows the songs. We rehearsed them. They're his songs and they're rehearsed and blah blah blah. Like, why am I so focused that you don't got a poker face
yeah, like,
kind of thing?
yeah,
And then
man. That's awesome. I feel like that. Like it's cool you said that. I appreciate it, man. That's awesome.
yeah.
Sorry I stressed you out, bud.
No, well, I learned how to do that, and I changed ever since then. When
Yeah.
I'm like, that, like my whole concept came kind of also from that, like how even I did the last Madball record and the last, we're all the way I see it now is like this. I say it about Madball. I go, look at everybody in the band is special forces. A Navy SEAL, a Green Beret, Air Force Ranger, whatever. You don't tell an Air Force Ranger or a Marine Recon how to be a Marine Recon. You just say, this is the mission. Marines, do your Marines. Air Force, do your Air Force. The mission is to win. Everybody specializes now, just, get the mission accomplished. I learned to do that and focus on, okay, now just have fun with the mission kind of thing. And it came from partly from that, and like, word, why am I micromanaging every second? Like, no, now it's the big show.
Yeah.
Now we're recording, this is what all the work we did goes into this part.
I agree. I think, even think about the way you are like on stage, you're just literally living it. There's It's just like, I'm there.
Yeah. No, exactly.
You don't sometimes you forget you're even playing,
For facts, like, people you zone out.
Be like, oh wait, I'm done. The show's over. Like I'm just
hell yeah. You definitely, because people forget you're breathing a certain way. Your adrenaline is a certain thing. You zone out mentally. It's like you're
just doing what you're meant to do. You're just like,
all your senses are activated. You're listening, you're seeing, you're playing, you're feeling. It's like people don't, it's insane how we did that. But that fucking, with that Hazen Street Records, it's what I'm glad about that record is I love the record. We all love the record, and that people still love the record. To this day, people are asking, when another Hazen Street record, or Hazen Street merch, or when Hazen Street this, or Hazen Street this, and I'm always like, we would all love to. It's just so hard. Everybody's, doing their other thing. But I'm glad that it was something that is still, it didn't deflate.
We've sent a voice memo.
He's mentioned some shit, and I'm like, I tell people, maybe after this COVID shit, we start doing a fucking once in a lifetime. We do one of these every Christmas. We do a Hazen Street show, or every fucking New Year's Day we do a Hazen Street show somewhere. You know what I mean?
Or even like I was telling Freddie, if we can time it, because Freddie, I know he comes to Tennessee sometimes.
Yeah.
And like if we could time it, get a friend who's got a cheap studio, and we, get a couple cameras.
Yeah.
We film a long weekend.
Yeah, we can make some shit happen.
Make it like Wild Hogs, it's Travolta.
Yeah.
The Adam Sandler grown-ups, and just
hell yeah,
document the weekend and just whatever happens.
Hell yeah, no, there's a couple friends of ours that are trying to make their move to Tennessee also. So I think you're gonna have there's more people in the area and stuff. So that's cool. Nice. But remember, I'm the real South now.
That's true.
I'm the real South.
It's
crazy. But good shit. And when could everybody look out for the Christmas special or the live stream? How's that going to work? Where can everybody find out all that newfound info?
Just newfoundglory.com. Honestly, just newfoundglory.com. It's December 18th, the special. And if you got kids that you're trying to get into punk rock, it's perfect for them.
Yeah.
A lot of our Newfound Glory parents got their kids into us over the last 2 years because we covered Let It Go from Frozen.
Yeah.
And
that's dope.
Dude, we play shows now and we have to have kid merch because it's parents like, every show you're like, oh, there's like one or two kids. This is like a lot,
Oh yeah.
This is like a lot of kids. Like just you look out, little kids on shoulders, and it's awesome. So I think they're gonna enjoy it. And yeah, did I ever tell you? I forgot to tell you that my first New York experience when we played Newfound Glory. Shai Hulud played a Revelation Records showcase at the Wetlands, I think in '96 or '97.
You made it to some classic eras of clubs and
Well, the reason Wetlands, I was going to tell you, because imagine being in South Florida, listening to Madball Records, hearing like stories, of New York, and our van pulls up to the Wetlands. We get out, and like I look to my right, and it's like you and two other dudes like way down the block, and man, it was like, I just remember being like, holy crap.
Yeah.
Like, we're in New York. That's the baseball,
Yeah.
that ball.
You're like, yo, they all hang out together, every hardcore band, right? Everybody thinks like in New York, everybody like Gorilla Biscuits hanging out with youth
It
of
was
today,
crazy.
and then
But
I love it.
but you were like the first person I saw, and then we played, and I think you guys were there to hang out with Ignite, because Ignite played, and I
Yes.
think Freddie sang with Ignite that night.
And I remember that show because with Zola, it's funny you say that. And I didn't know that was the show you on it because I brought it up with Zoli. That was the show, me and him. I was outside, somebody had a gumball machine, right? Gumball, and they broke it and all the quarters flew out. And me, Zoli, and Stigma, like scavengers, you should have seen us bum rush these quarters like fucking like we were like, and it's funny because it was that show. It was actually that show. I want to say if Ignite was on it because
Yeah, that's crazy.
And it's crazy that you got to play. Now for my era of hardcore, that's a classic. I'm not part of the A7, or all those old clubs. I was like from CB's, Wetlands, Coney Island High, and Wetlands was a big part. Awesome. AF getting on stage again after they broke up was at Wetlands at a Madball show. You know what I mean? Like that was like our A7 and all those classic, clubs like for Roger and all of them.
That's
It
cool.
was, so again, you caught us at the Cheers. That's like in my book of shows.
The Cheers,
a moment I remember and catching any Wetlands era. That was a special time because Wetlands was like rabies working the back door. You would see AF Roy, who plays in Stone Sour now and Nausea. It was the sound man. It was like, it was all like, everybody still worked. Roger, his ex working the bar, he would come pick his girl. It was just everybody involved with the scene working there. It was like still that feel.
Dude,
And, everybody did mad classic shit, but fucking, that was cool. And that was Shia Lude, right? Shia Lude Ignite.
It was a show. It was like a remember all the CMJ showcases?
Yeah.
So it was that. It was a CMJ showcase, and it was our first show, like really out of state. And it was that. Like we played earlier in the day.
And the rest of the newfound guys, they're in California. Where they're at? They're still over there.
Actually, Florida. Well, Cyrus.
Florida,
Cyrus and Ian are more like Boca area, and then Jordan lives in San Diego still.
Yeah, San Diego. Yep. Okay, I forgot. I remember you told me they moved back to Florida. They came back. Have you seen them yet? Have you got to when you worked on the stuff? Yeah, I saw the little preview.
They were here last week, and it's always a risk. Like, dude, they get COVID tests because like Cyrus's wife, she has like a immune disease thing.
So checked all the time.
And Cyrus, like what people are doing now, like quarantining, he's done since they've been married for everything. Oh. So if he goes on tour and gets home, he'll like stay somewhere for a few days to make sure he's not sick.
Gotcha. So he kind of know the procedure already, yeah.
Yeah, and obviously because it's more extreme, it's like way more heightened. So we take a lot of precautions, and like in the stream, you'll see us like, not wearing masks while we're playing, but like immediately after, because we're trying to help him out and
to feel good, and also that have that stress of him thinking about it. That sucks too, like
exactly.
That's why I do. I'm like, people could have their little, why worry, why not? I'm like, if it makes somebody else feel all right, I don't give a fuck. I'm like, it doesn't hurt me, much.
Yeah, and for him, like I feel like we owe it to him for the sense of what he's doing for us. So for instance, we got to play a drive-in show in Chicago. It was awesome.
Oh, that's dope. How was that?
It was great. The people that put on Riot Fest did it.
Yeah.
And so it was like legit, and it was the day before Halloween. So we got to play and we showed Beetlejuice. So in costume, and it was awesome. But dude, he drove from Florida to Chicago to play one show because he's like, this is our business. I got to work, but I also can't get my wife sick. So he drove all the way to Chicago, drove all the way home, and then quarantined for 7 days by himself.
Trooper.
Just to play that show for us. So we're like,
And who says the drummers are the dicks?
Yeah, exactly. They're weird though. Drummers are weird.
Absolutely. You got to be a weirdo to want to carry all that shit around and then, and then sweat and and then carry it out.
Yeah.
But fucking no, but good shit, Chad. I'm glad we got to catch up. I ain't seen you in a while. I'm glad everything's good. So after this thing, what's the next, any other thing? What's the next thing for you, or nothing planned yet for 2021 yet?
Yeah, nothing. Just kind of like, just going to enjoy the Christmas, and whatever happens, we'll make the best of it. I've kind of given up trying to plan in a way of like, I don't want to get my hopes up. And then also I don't want to like, I'm just kind of take it as it goes. Like still work really hard, but not even try to figure it out. Just like, oh, right now this is an opportunity. Let's do it.
Yeah, absolutely.
This is
good shit. Good shit. No, I hope to catch you somewhere. I'm glad I got you on here. A lot of people were asking for you. I'm gonna send you.
That's awesome.
When I put this out, I'm gonna send you the links and all that shit so you can spread the word.
I'd love to.
But Chad, you know what's up. I'm glad we got to catch up. I'm glad you good.
Yes.
Fucking, we definitely gonna get up soon. Vaccine, no vaccine. I'm making a run for it.
Let's do it, man. I want to keep that song going with Freddie. I know we got sidetracked, but that would be
we got to. And people want that Hazen Street shit. We gotta do a little special something. Even technology makes things easy.
Let's do it.
Easier. We'll do something. But be safe, Chad. Everybody catch Chad on his Instagram, Facebook, Newfound Glory. Catch all that good shit. Go buy their merch, then go to Casa de Rock and buy my merch. Metallica's dope, but they got enough loot. So, Chad, we'll talk soon. I'll hit you up, all right, brother?
All right, I'll see you soon.
Be safe.
Love you, bud.
Peace. Love you, bro. One.
Love you, bud.